Good afternoon, Professor. How you feeling?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
I see you answered that question already. That was good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
See,
Wait, can you say that one more time?
see if you can do the first part, finding the x and y intercepts. I saw you did the slope.
Oh, sorry about that. There's two parts. Oh, sorry about that.
A and B, there are two questions. Okay, I think we should get started on this. Good morning, how are you? Okay, so what I did here is I gave you an equation of a line, 2y minus 5x equals negative 20, and I asked two questions about it. Question number one, I asked, what was the x and y intercepts? And question number two, I asked for the slope. So I'm going to do this in the order that I wrote the questions. Number A. And this is what I would do if all I was asked to find the x and y intercepts of a line, that there is a very simple process involved. To find an x-intercept, you can do that by putting y equal to 0 into the equation. Take your equation, any term that has a y in it, replace that by 0. Of course, when you replace a y with 0, this becomes 2 times 0, which is 0. So this sort of disappears. And all you're left with is negative 5x equals negative 20, which you can solve by dividing both sides by negative 5. So that you end up with x equaling negative 20 divided by negative 5, which is positive 4. And you could say the x-intercept is 4, or more accurately, the x-intercept is the point 4, 0. It's perfectly all right to say the x-intercept is 4, but you have to realize that an x-intercept is a point, and therefore, when you have a point, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a point. It has to have both an x and a y value. So more accurately is to say that x-intercept is 4, 0. To find the y-intercept, you do a similar thing, but instead of putting y equal to 0, to find the y-intercept, you replace x with 0 in your equation. And when you do that, of course, any term that has an x in it is going to disappear. So you'll be left with 2y equals negative 20. And when you solve that, you get y equals negative 10. In other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, it would be perfectly all right to say that the y-intercept is negative 10, but the more accurate way to put it is to say it's the point 0, negative 10. In this case, the x is the 0, the y is negative 10. If you were asked to graph that line, this is what that line would look like. It would be a line that's going up, slanted. That is how you find, if all you're interested is in finding the x or y intercepts, this is the most efficient way to do it. To find an x-intercept, replace the y in your equation with 0. To find the y-intercept, replace the x with 0. Okay, so now let's see if we can go to the question B of this equation. In that case, B asked us to find the slope of the line. And when you're given the slope of the equation of the line, the way to find the slope is to solve for y. Get the y alone, which means add 5x to both sides. That'll give you 2y equals 5x minus 20. And then divide everything by 2, so you get the y alone. So this is what we call the y equals mx plus b form of the line. Y equals 5 over 2x minus 10. The m, the coefficient of the x, the number in front of the x is 5 over 2, is your slope. The b, happens to be negative 10 in this case, would be your y-intercept, which we had already found. But to find the slope, you look at the number in front of the x, but only after you have y equals. So those are some of the things that we had talked about last time when we met. I see a bunch of people did get the right answer, so that is really, I'm glad to see that. And let's go on to the main part of today's lesson. Last time when we were here, we talked about starting with the equation of a line and figuring out information about the line. One of the things we did was we were able to find the slope. Another thing we were able to do was to find the x and the y-intercept. Another thing we talked about, I'm gonna erase this. Is lines that are parallel and perpendicular. In this case, we had gotten the line equal to y equals 5 halves x minus 10. And we said that the slope is going to be 5 over 2. We also talked about lines that are parallel and perpendicular. Parallel lines are lines that were, no matter how much you extend them, they will never cross. They'll always stay the same amount apart, which means they're always slanted the exact same amount. There's this line and this line. They both have the same slant, which means they have the same slope. Parallel lines have equal slopes. Equal or the same, the exact same slopes. Any line that's going to be parallel to this line will have to have a slope of 5 over 2. We then talked about lines that are perpendicular. Perpendicular lines are lines that cross at what we call right angles. They form square corners where they cross. Right angles are 90-degree angles. Perpendicular lines cross at 90-degree angles. And it turns out that the slopes are opposite reciprocals. What that means is if this slope is 5/2, a perpendicular line would have to have a slope that's flipped over on the opposite side. So you'd have to flip it over to get its reciprocal. You get the 2 on top and the 5 on the bottom. And since this is positive, we'd have to have this to be negative. But any line perpendicular to this line would have to have a slope of a -2/5. So those are the things I think that we had discussed last time when we started talking about graphing of lines and finding out features of lines. Today's lesson, we're going to concentrate on what happens if I describe a line to you. I give you some information about it, enough information that you probably could draw the line, but I don't tell you what the equation is. Is there a way for you to figure out that equation? So that's what I'd like to do today. And we're going to see that the questions are all basically follow the same pattern as to how we solve them, but some of them come out to be a little bit difficult because you end up using fractions, but the ideas are what we're going to be concentrating on now. So let me erase this and let's take an example. Okay, and we have to remember that basically when we want to write the equation of a line, what we're trying to get is y equals mx plus b. Two important pieces of information. The m, the slope of the line, and the b, which is the y-intercept. If you know the slope of the line and the y-intercept, then you right away can write the equation of the line. So let's say, number one, I tell you that the slope of the line is -5, and the y-intercept, I tell you, is 0, 2. We know this is a y-intercept because the x value is 2. If I want to write the equation of the line, that's quite easy because, again, all I have to do is replace the m with the slope and the b with the y-intercept. So my equation in that case would be y equals -5x, because my slope I was told was -5, plus 2. Because if the y-intercept is 0, 2, then the 2 is the b value. So that was a relatively easy example to do. I gave you the two important pieces of information you needed, and if you filled it in, you got your equation of your line. But what if I don't give you everything just spelled out like that? So let's see what kind of questions you could get. Now, question number one, you might get a situation where you're given 2 points. Let's say I was giving, so here's another. I'm giving you the points 5, -6, and 2, -4. Suppose I ask you to write the equation of that line. How do I go about writing the equation of the line where I'm given 2 points? Obviously, I could draw the line because all I have to do is plot these 2 points on my graph and connect them. I would have a picture of that line. but I don't have the equation of the line. So that's the type of questions we're going to be dealing with this whole period. Well, if you notice, I said what we want to write.
Wait, so in that case, 5, I mean, in this case, 5 is like, is the x, right? Like x1. That's what 5 is.
Right. This is your x is 5, and this point, and the y is -6. And this point, the x is 2, and the y is -4. So if you think about it, when I told you when I want to get the equation in the y plus mx plus b form, the first thing we always want to find out is what is the slope of the line? What is the m? So that I can put it into the equation. Okay, who remembers how you find the slope of the line? Good. Brandon wrote y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The slope formula, let's put it on the board. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Any 2 points, you can find the slope between them by using this formula. Just call one of your points the x1, y1, and your other point x2, y2, and then just stick it in. You're going to get -4 minus -6. Be very careful. It's going to be minus a -6 because you're subtracting the y1. So there are 2 negatives there. There's the subtraction and there's a negative number over x2, which is 2, minus 5. Okay, now remember, when you have 2 negatives, it becomes a positive. So this really becomes -4 plus 6, which is 2, over 2 minus 5, which is -3. And that means your slope of this line is -2/3. So step number 1 in writing the equation of line is to figure out what the slope of the line is. That gets us to the point where we're putting in the slope of the line. Y equals -2/3 x plus b. I still don't know the b. Remember, when you want to graph the line, you first have to start with the b. But when you want to write the equation of the line, the first thing is figure out the slope. So how are we going to go from here to get we still have to figure out this b. So that's where we go to our second step. We have 2 points that are on the line. You can take either one of the points. I'll start with the 5, -6. And we put it into the equation. The point has to work in the equation, which means I can replace the y by -6 and the x with 5. Alternatively, I could have used the -4 for the y and the 2 for the x. It doesn't matter, you will get the same answer. This will give me -6 equals -2/3 times 5 plus b. Now, this is my own thing. I always get confused when they're whole numbers and they're fractions. So I always like to put my whole numbers over 1 so that I can keep track of what is the top, the numerator, and what's the bottom, the denominator. So let's go through this. This we're going to have to be careful. If you could use your calculators with this. So this is -6/1. The first thing I have to do is multiply the -2/3 with a 5/1. Now, remember, I always try to cancel out a numerator with the denominator, but here nothing is going to cancel. So I just multiply the numerators together, which gives me -10 over 3 times 1, which is 3. And that's plus b over 1. Now, I want to get the b alone, because I want to figure out what b is. which means I have to get rid of this negative 10 over 3. So I'm going to add 10 over 3 to both sides. Now, if you know how to use a calculator, there are calculators that do most of your calculators. If you have this 2-line calculator, it does work with fractions. You don't want to change it to decimals if you can avoid it. But I'm going to do this by hand. Remember when I'm adding fractions, I want to have a common denominator. And since the denominator here is 3 and 1, your common denominator is 3. Now, remember how you do that. You divide the original denominator into the new denominator. 1 divided to 3 is 3. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Over here, 3 into 3 is 1. 1 times 10 is 10. So when I add these two fractions, I get negative 18 over 3 plus 10 over 3 is negative 8 over 3. That's what my b is equal to. So now I can write the equation of my line. My line has the equation y equals negative 2/3 x minus 8/3. You have to be careful with your fractions. What made this a harder problem was the fact that there were fractions. But again, first figure out what the slope of your line is. And then after you have the slope of your line, you can then put it into your equation and then take any point that's on the line and figure out the b from there. Okay. I am going to give you one like this to try out and see if you can do it while I take attendance. Great. I see some people are coming up with the answers right on time. Okay, so let's see if I gave you this question. Okay. Can I erase this? Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you 2 points. One point is a 0.68, and one is the point -32. I would like you to find the equation of the line between these 2 points. Again, the first thing you'll do is find the slope, and then you'll stick this into one of these points into the equation to get your y-intercept, so you'll have the whole equation. So while I'm taking attendance, see if you can come up with the equation of this line. Maury Labrie. Maury? Chelsea? Oh, Maury, good. I see you're here. Chelsea, you're here? Chelsea? Here. Yeah, good morning. Good afternoon. Ariana,
Here.
good afternoon. Adina. Adina Blenheim,
I'm here, and it's Blenman.
Blenman, sorry. Good afternoon. Lachey,
I'm here.
hi.
Hey.
Kava. Kava,
Here.
hi. Terrence,
Here.
hi. Karide,
Here.
hi. Kizia. Faith,
Here.
hi. Ethan. Ethan, Isabella,
Here.
hi. Serenity, Reggie,
Here.
hi. Zamaya,
Here, but you say it's a Mia.
Zamia, oh, okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Brandon,
Here.
hi. Michaela,
I'm here.
hi. Seraphine,
I'm here.
hi. Marissa,
Here.
Renee,
Here.
Sky,
Did you say Sky?
Sky,
Yeah, I'm here.
good. Glad you're here. Jaden Roberts, Kennedy,
Here.
hi. Felicia,
Oh, I'm Felicia. I'm here.
I'm gonna say it wrong every single time. Natalia, hi. Michael,
Here.
hi. Cassidy,
Here.
hi. Megan,
Here.
hi. Kalia Watson, Lauren,
Here.
and Kayla, Zachary.
Here.
Okay. I think we can start working on this question. I see some people have sent me in answers and some of them look right. Let's look at what we did. All right, let's remember, we're trying to find the equation of the line that goes through these 2 points. So we are looking for something in the form of y equals mx plus b. And as in every case, the first thing we're going to look for is to try to find the slope. And I can find the slope because I have the 2 points. I'll call this my x1, y1, and this my x2, y2. And then my slope will turn out to be at y2, which is 2 minus 8, that's y1, over x2, which is negative 3 minus 6. And I have to simplify this. So 2 minus 8 is negative 6. And negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. Again, you can use your calculator to find these numbers. I would separately do the top and the bottom, and then I would reduce. The negative over the negative will be positive, and I could divide both the top and the bottom by 3. So that'll give me 2/3. You always want to reduce your slope as much as you can. So my equation now, so I know my slope is going to be 2/3. So my equation is going to have to be something like this. Y equals 2/3 x plus b. So we're still missing the b. Again, we figure out first the slope. Then to figure out what the b is, I take either one of the 2 points, either the 6, 8 or the negative 3, 2. It doesn't matter which one you take, and just stick it into your equation. In other words, if I'm going to use that first point, 6, 8, wherever I see an x, I'm going to put a 6. And wherever I see a y, I'm going to put an 8. And if I do that, I get 8. Which remember, I'm putting it over 1 because I want it to be easy to tell the fractions, equals 2 over 3 times 6 over 1 plus b over 1. I'm just putting those whole numbers over 1. And the first thing I've got to do is multiply these 2 fractions. Notice in this case, there's a 3 in the denominator and 6 in the numerators that can cancel out. So this will give me 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 6 is 2. So that I get 8 over 1 equals 4 over 1 plus b over 1. This was much easier because this is not a fraction, it's just a whole number. If I subtract the 4 from both sides, that gives me b over 1, which is b equals 8 minus 4, which is just 4. This was much simpler than the other one because we didn't have to deal with the fractions, but the concept was the same. We first stuck in the slope and used it to figure out what the y-intercept is, so that my final answer comes out to be y equals 2/3 x plus 4. And what it means is that this is a line whose slope is 2 over 3 and whose y-intercept is 4. Again, I just had the 2 points, but I was able to write the equation of the line once I had the 2 points. Okay. So now I want to do a little bit different type of problem, but again, It's gonna involve writing the equation of a line. So let's look at that. Can I erase this? Anybody still copying? Okay. Suppose I gave you a question like this. I want you to find the equation of a line that is going to be parallel to the line 2x plus 3y equals 6 and passes through the point -3, -2. Again, I am giving you a description of a line. I'm telling you what the line looks like. I know a point that it goes through. I know it's parallel to a given line. So I know what it looks like, but I don't have the equation of the line. I have equation of a different line. I don't have equation of the line that I am looking for. So you can't get confused here because there are going to be two different lines they're talking about. They're talking about the original line, which I'll call line 1. And then we're talking about my line, let's call it line 2. I want the equation of line 2. And line 2 is going to be a parallel to line 1, but going through point -3, -2. Now again, because I want to write the equation of a line, I want y equals mx plus b. And again, the first thing I concentrate on when I want to write the equation of the line is what is the slope of that line? What is the m? And the only key to the slope, I don't have 2 points, so I can't use the slope formula. The only key I know about the slope is that it's parallel to this line. And when I say it's parallel to this line, it must mean that it has the same slope. Parallel lines have identical slopes. So if I could find out the slope of line 1, that would give me the slope of the line that I'm looking for. Well, I certainly can find the slope of line 1 if we know how to find the slope of the line. We put it in the y equals mx plus b form. So I take the 2x plus 3y equals 6, and I solve for y. So I'm going to minus 2x from both sides, which will give me 3y equals -2x plus 6. Remember, I always put the x term first, and then I divide everything by 3. So that line 1 in simplest form is y equals -2/3 x plus 2. And now that I have this in slope-intercept form, in y equals mx plus b form, I know what my slope is. My slope is -2/3. The original line, the line that I gave you the equation for, has a slope of -2/3, which means, now let's go over here. For line 2, my slope also has to be -2/3 because the two lines are parallel. And if the two lines are parallel, they have to have the exact same slope. So here's my equation for line 2. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. In other words, by telling me that the two lines are parallel, it's giving me a clue to figure out what the slope is. But I still have to figure out what the b is. So how do I go to the b? I take the point that they gave, and I was only given one, so I don't have a choice. I have to use that point and replace the x with -3 and the y with -2. So this will be -2. I'm going to put it over 1 again because of those fractions. I'm putting it over 1 equals -2/3 times -3 over 1 plus b over 1. If all the numbers are whole numbers, if there are no fractions, you don't have to put them over these ones. But once you have some fractions and some whole numbers, it's better just to make everything fractions. So this stays -2 over 1. Here, I'm lucky because the 3 on top and the 3 on the bottom cancel. So I'm left with a -2 times a -1, which is a +2 over 1 plus b over 1. And now I want to get those two, subtract 2 from both sides because I want to get the b alone. And -2 and -2 give me -4 equals b. So now I can write my equation of my line. Y equals -2/3 x minus 4. That is the equation of line 2, the line that I wanted to get. So you can't stop right here. You can't stop over here because this is not the equation of the line you're looking for. You just got the right slope, but now you have to go on and find the correct y-intercept. Again, it was a different problem, but what we focused on first was to find the slope of my line. And then once I had the slope, I could then find the equation of the line. Can we try another one? Okay, let's see if we can try another one. I'm going to give you one too. I'll start you off on this one, but then I'm going to let you finish it off. By the way, the problems I'm doing, I happen to have been from that sheet that that came with your week 2 class. The week 2 class, there was a practice example sheet. That's where I'm using these getting these problems from. Okay. I want you to write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the line 7x plus 9y equals 18 and goes through the point -7, 0. Okay, so again, we have this situation where we have 2 lines. We have this line 1. And we want to write an equation of line 2 But understand there are two different lines being talked about here. That is going to be perpendicular to this line. And remember, line 2 is going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on finding the slope. Remember, the first thing you always want to find is the slope of the line. What is the slope of the line 2, the one that's going to be perpendicular to my original line? What do we have to do? The first thing we have to do is find the slope of the first line. We have to find the slope of this line. And in order to do that, what we have to do is put the equation of line 1 in the y equals mx plus b form. In other words, we're going to subtract 7x from both sides, which will give us 9y equals negative 7x plus 18. And then I'm going to divide everything by 9 so that in the simplest form, I get y equals negative 7 over 9x plus 2. This is the equation of line 1. The original line that they gave me, that's what I have the equation of, which means the slope of my original line is negative 7 over 9. And my new line then would have to have a slope of, and I see a couple of people have put it on the chat, the new line has a slope of positive 9 over 7. Remember, when we have perpendicular lines, the lines have opposite reciprocal slopes, which means I have to flip the fraction and change its sign. Also, remember, if your original slope is a whole number, like 7, its reciprocal has to be 1 over 7. You always have to work with reciprocals as if they were fractions. So it turns out for line 2, my equation is going to be y equals 9 over 7x plus b. My slope is 9 over 7. Okay, I'm going to stop now and give you a few minutes to finish up and figure out what the b is. The point is negative 7, 0, correct? Okay, so I see we're getting some answers, so let's work on this together. Just like we did before, we have to take the point and stick it into the equation. By the way, -7, 0 would be mean that the x-intercept is -7, because when the y is 0, the x value is the x-intercept. But they didn't ask that information, just getting it. So let's put in the numbers. In place of y, we're putting 0. In place of x, we're putting -7. And again, I'm going to put over 1 because we have these fractions. Now, again, the first thing we're going to have to do is multiply the 9/7 by the -7/1. And we're again lucky this cancels out. 7 into 7 is 1, 7 to -7 is -1. So I end up with 0/1 equals -9/1 plus b/1. And if I want to get the b alone, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So it turns out that we get b equals to 9. We add 0 and 9, we get 9. So therefore, the equation of the line that I was looking for is y equals 9/7 times x plus 9. Here is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to this line and going through this point. And I think we have an idea of how to approach these problems. How do we go about finding the equation of a line if we given a description of a line? Remember, in every case, the first thing I did was somehow figured out what the slope is. In this case, because the lines were perpendicular, I took the original slope, flipped it over, and changed its sign. When the lines were parallel, I used the exact slope. If I had 2 points, then I used the slope formula to find the slope. But basically, my first focus in writing the equation of a line is what is the slope of the line. And once I fit in the slope of the line, I just take any point on the line and fit it into the equation and solve that to get the b. Okay, now I want to, just for a few minutes, look at 2 special lines. We mentioned them before, but let's look at those, and then we'll continue from there. Oh, before that, let's do one other problem. I'm going to do one other problem like this, and then I'll want to speak about 2 special lines. Okay. There is a question here that looks like this. Write the equation of a line that has an x-intercept of 3 and a y-intercept of -6. I'm telling you where this line crosses the x-axis. I'm telling you whether the line is crossing the y-axis. I want you to write the equation of the line. Now, the only thing that you have to be really clear about is that when I tell you what an x-intercept is, and I tell you it's 3, that's really not totally accurate. The x-intercept is really the point 3, 0. Whenever you have an x-intercept, the y value is going to be 0. Since we know the y is going to be 0, we sometimes just say the x-intercept is 3. But you have to understand it's a 0.30. While if I'm telling you about the y-intercept, I'm also giving you a point, but the point is a 0.0 -6, because the y-intercept has an x value of 0. Now, if you have these 2 points, you should be able to write the equation of the line. So you just had to do a little extra step. What you have to first do is find the slope of the line, and then you have to finish it by finding the b, the y-intercept. I'm giving you a few minutes to try it on your own. Okay, somebody already sent me what the slope is. But remember, the slope is not the end of the story. What is the whole equation of the line? Okay, looks like we have some answers. So let's work on this together. Again, whenever we ask to write the equation of the line, we want to go to y equals mx plus b. And we want to figure out what the slope is first. So let's call this, since we have 2 points, let's call this our x1, y1. Let's call this our x2, y2. And again, our slope is going to be y2, which is -6, minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is 0, minus 3. And when I simplify this, -6 minus 0 is -6, and 0 minus 3 is -3. And I can reduce this. I always want to simplify or reduce my slope if I can. -6 divided by -3 is +2. The slope of this line happens to be 2. So here's my equation, y equals 2x plus b. We still have to work on the b, but remember what the b is. The b is the y-intercept. The m is the slope, the b is the y-intercept. And I don't even have to do any work because I was told specifically that the y-intercept is -6. which means that the b has to be -6. I could have stuck in either one of the points and would have worked out, but I don't even have to do that work because they told me what the y-intercept is. So my equation of a line is y equals 2x minus 6. So notice what we did. We had 4 different situations where I asked you to write equations of lines. I gave you 2 points. I gave you the x and y intercepts. I gave you lines that are parallel. I gave you lines that are perpendicular. And all of them really meant what we first have to do is figure out the slope of what we're looking for and then stick in the point to get the y-intercept. Sometimes that's the hardest part. If the things don't, if they're not nice numbers and you get hard fractions, it'll come when you're trying to figure out the b. But basically, they're all the same type of questions. So I wanted to look at what happens when we have one of 2 special lines. We mentioned these 2 lines last time. Let's talk about that so that we can say we can, given any situation, we can write the equation of a line. So first, let's look at suppose I wanted you to write the equation of a line that is a vertical line. I want the equation of a vertical line going through the point 5, -2. So let's, I'm just going to do a quick sketch of this. Here's the point 5, -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Here's my point 5, -2. A vertical line is a line that goes straight up and down. I know it doesn't look too straight up and down, but that's what it is. And sometimes it's called a vertical line. Sometimes it's a line that's parallel to the y-axis. Sometimes it's described as a line that's perpendicular to the x-axis. But all those lines, parallel to the y-axis or perpendicular to the x-axis, are what we call vertical lines, lines that go straight up and down. And when the equation of such a line is always x equals some number. There's no y in that equation, it's just x equals. And to figure out what the x is, you just have to look at the point, any point that it's going through. Look at the x value, in this case, this is very clear, this is a 5. Then the equation of this line is x equals 5. Vertical lines are lines that go straight up and down, and the equation is x equals a number. Remember, those are the only lines that don't have any slope. I can't give you the slope of the line. I can't put it in the y equals mx plus b form, but I can definitely write the equation of the line because it's a very simple equation. It has only an x in it with no y. X equals 5 because the points, all the points on that line have their x values equal to 5. Let's talk about a horizontal line. What if I asked you to write the equation of the horizontal line through that point? Horizontal means straight across. You can always remember that because think of the horizon. The horizon you see is when you're looking across, like if you're looking at this ocean, you're looking straight across back and forth. So the horizontal line is one that goes straight across. That line has an equation y equals some number. And again, it's easy to figure out the number because all you have to do is look at the y value of any point. Every point on this line is down 2 under the x-axis. So the equation of this line happens to be y equals -2. This is a horizontal line. It actually does have a slope. The slope is equal to 0. But again, it doesn't have an equation in the regular y equals mx plus b form because it just has a y in it. Yeah, you could say it's y equals 0 times x minus 2, but really the equation is just y equals -2. So those two lines are just special exceptions to finding the equation of the slanting line, but they actually are the easier lines to find the equations of because it doesn't really involve work. You don't have to stick in a point. You want a vertical line, you're going to write x equals a number, and you look at the x of the point. You want a horizontal line, you're going to write y equals a number, and the number is going to be the y of the point. Okay. I think that takes us almost to the end of chapter 2. There is one other thing that I'm going to be talking about in chapter 2, which is something called functional notation that we're going to talk about next time. That's what I wanted. I want to tell you to make 2 very important announcements. Number 1, there is an SI, a supplementary instructor assigned to our class. I don't think she's going to be sitting into this class because her hours don't work out, but she is going to be working with us. Her name is Shireen Hodgson. And she'll be reaching out to you by emailing you. So if you see an email from her, you know it's going to be about SI instruction. And I have worked with Shireen for several years. I'd say 5 or 6 terms. She's excellent. She knows how I teach. She knows the topics, and she's very familiar with tutoring for Math 136, and she will make herself available for you whenever you need any help. She'll send you her specific hours. As I said, I think they're going to be something like 1 to 3 every day of the week. So that's number 1. Sharina is going to be our SI person. The other thing I wanted to tell you about has to do with scheduling. This Thursday, which is September 16th, there is no class. The school is closed for those days, or at least there are no classes scheduled for Thursday. Next Tuesday, September 21st, school is in session, but I will not be able to meet with you in person. I am going to be posting on your Blackboard account a YouTube on the material that we would be covering normally in class. It's going to be almost exactly like class, except nobody's going to be able to ask questions, but you certainly can always email me questions. There will be an assignment, some sort of work page to do that I'm going to ask you to submit that will indicate that you have watched the YouTube video. I will post it probably on Monday, You have to just watch it. You don't have to watch it at exactly the times that are scheduled. You could watch it at your convenience, but you must watch it. That is going to be the case not only for Tuesday, the 21st, also for Tuesday, the 28th. So for 2 Tuesdays, you're going to have videos, YouTube videos of our classes. Any questions that you can ask the following Thursdays, or at any time if you want, you can email me questions and I will help you out with that. Does anybody have any question as to what's going on? Do we have class tomorrow on Wednesday? No, there's no class tomorrow as well. I mean, I didn't tell you about Wednesday because we don't meet on Wednesday, but the school there are no classes scheduled for Wednesday or Thursday. Any other questions? Okay, so in that case, then I'm going to let you go. Don't forget to look out for Delta Math. There will be a homework assignment on Delta Math, specifically on this topic. I have to tell you, when it comes to the midterm and the final, this is an extremely important topic. Let me look at, I'm looking at one of the midterms that I have here, a previous midterm. There are a total of 20 questions on the midterm. And 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 20 questions are of this type. So you have to, 4 or 5 questions out of 20 is a very strong representation. So you really want to know how to do these type of questions, how to find the equations of lines. Okay. Again, don't forget that next Tuesday, you're going to be looking out for a YouTube video of our class. Okay, everybody have a nice week, and I'll see you in person again on the 23rd. Okay, any questions? Wait, so no school tomorrow or Thursday? No, that is true. There's no school tomorrow or Thursday. Don't forget that I did, if you look on your Blackboard account, you will see that part of on the information page, you will see a academic schedule. Just print it out because it has all the days that we're off and any other important deadlines that you may have to know about. What else did I want to say? Again, when you're going to look, I will specifically post the YouTube, not as part of the class recordings, but I'll specifically say recording of class for September 1st will be on the side as a special. So all you'll have to do is click on that and you can get right to it. Okay? Have a great week.
You too, Professor.
Okay, I'm ending the session for everybody.